Good morning. It is May 2nd. If you can believe it, it's already May. It is May 2nd, which means it is time for another Taco Tuesday here at WiLS. I'm very excited to be joined today by four of our vendor partners. I like to keep my intro short, as you know, so I am going to kick things over to Pam, who is joining us from LibraryH3lp. Pam, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can share yours and take the reins.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Sure.
Let's see here. There, I think I'm sharing my screen now. So we'll just go ahead and, oh, great. We'll go ahead and get started here. So my name is Pam Sessoms. I'm the librarian in residence here with LibraryH3lp. Before I started doing this full time over a decade ago, I worked as an academic librarian at UNC Chapel Hill for a long time, and that's kind of where I cut my librarian teeth. So I'm very fond of and very familiar with libraries. So LibraryH3lp is a real-time help desk platform that we designed for libraries and nonprofits. Probably our chat module is what we are most known for, so I'll definitely spend some time on that. You know, that lets you chat with your guests, patrons, students, etc. online through your website and through lots of other websites you may have. Integrates well with things like EBSCO's products, Primo, and so forth. We have texting, which integrates with chat. We have 3Mail, which is a little email reference module. We have a FAQ module, which is a searchable knowledge base. We have professional staffing available through chat staff. So we have a lot of nice little features. I'm looking for my arrow keys. There we go. So on with chat, I thought I would show you some examples here quickly. So I'm just going to click through these. LibraryH3lp chat can look a lot of different ways. One of the things we do is we let you cultivate a desired online appearance for when you're actively able to chat and for when you're offline. So when you might let the guest email you. So this is a public library and they are currently offline. And so they are pointing to an email system here. So this is how they're presenting their chat with a floating button in that lower right corner, which is a really popular way to go now. That's the way lots and lots of commercial chat products present their interface right now. So they're offline. We click on their email link and they have a nice little form right there. Moving on, another public library. So these guys aren't doing the floating button, but they have a very prominent Ask a Librarian placement here on their main library page to kind of advertise the service. And they are online. So when I clicked it, I got this nice little convenient frictionless chat box for them. This is UT Austin, and they do something a little bit different. They have a presentation for chat that floats in the lower right corner like we've been seeing. They put their chat behind authentication, their local authentication, to add a little bit more friction there and just serve chat out to their users that can actually sign in. So that's another way to go. NYU, they have a floating tab, and theirs is also in Primo. Let me get in there. See how that looks. So their floating tab carries all the way over into Primo, so you can navigate around and it's always there. When you click on it, you get kind of a little floating chat box that they have designed, so that's neat. And just one more. This is a writing center at UT Austin. And their floating chat button, rather than popping the chat box up, it takes you to a page that says like when they're opening next for consultations, and it has a very large embedded chat box. So there's a lot of different ways that you can present the system depending on your goals. And I did not mean to detach that. Let me see if I can put it back. There we go. Quick example of our fact sites. These are the searchable knowledge bases. We have a couple of them to just show you briefly. So this kind of serves as a self-help module. So whether or not you're online or offline with chat, your guests can come in here and look at your frequently asked questions. How do I connect to the guest Wi-Fi? That's always a favorite. Alumni access and so forth. It is searchable. So I type in Wi-Fi, I see everything that has Wi-Fi. And of course, you know, support standard HTML, has tag cloud, has integrated chat. One more, looks kind of similar. And for our customers that are interested in this FAQ module, we will provide that initial branding to kind of make it match the home library site. So you don't have to spend a lot of time getting basic CSS working there. So this is Yukon. They've implemented with this kind of read more thing, so you can hover over the individual short questions here and see more detail without actually clicking in. There's the full question view. So moving on a little bit. This is a quick demo page that we have just so I can show you the online offline appearance happening in real time. So here's a test page, you know, button in the lower right corner like we've been seeing. I'm offline, so it would pop up this email form that would go into my 3Mail system within LibraryHelp if I sent it. And let me bring myself online. This is our chat client. Speed this along by reloading the page rather than waiting for it to update. And now that I'm online, different appearance, can click to chat. There we go. Waiting for the Zoom bar to go away so I can click back to the tab I want. There we go. So the chat system has, you know, more features than you can shake a stick at. It's got canned messages of the shared type, of the individual type. It has file sharing. It has screen sharing, all kinds of stuff. Tag for follow-up so that if you can't answer something immediately, you can refer it off for later email follow-up. Pretty robust chat system. Back to the slides. So these are screenshots of the web client staffing interface. It supports a couple of different appearances. So the one on the left has this kind of spacious, bubbly look. The one on the right's a little bit more compact, same exact chats, just different preferences that you can set up. You can also, both of the prior ones, the screen automatically splits to show you the maximum real estate for your number of available chats that you have going, active chats. We also have a different layout that lets you have little boxes that you can drag around within the interface if you don't want it to automatically allocate space for you. Moving on away from chat a little bit, texting lets guests text you from their cell phones. Their texts arrive as chats, so your staff don't really have any kind of learning hurdle with that. Works really well. If they text when you're offline, they get an auto reply saying your question's going to be held until we're next online, so that they kind of have their expectations set. 3Mail, which I've mentioned a couple of times, is a simple shared mailbox system that's ideal for public services, especially for small teams. I say it's ideal for public services because sometimes people have institutional email systems that make that awkward because it's only tied to an individual's identity and they don't have a way to have like an identity for the public service staff, the reference staff, whatever. And this gets around that. Using your LibraryHelp staffing queues, you can manage who has access to a shared inbox. So then if I've been handling a question and I go on vacation for a week and my guest replies, you know, the people that are watching the email reference system during that week while I'm gone can reply and the guest doesn't have to wait. They don't get my personal, you know, hey, I'm gone on vacation auto reply. So it works really well for that. It has tags, labels, search, message templates, alert that you received a new message to your institutional email. So if you're not in there all the time, you don't just let something that came in, you know, sit until you happen to go and actively check it. It'll notify you. It can receive mail from web forms, the little web form that I showed you earlier, and you can proactively initiate text messages through it as well. Here's a couple of screenshots of it. This is the inbox view. It's kind of Gmail-y. It's very simple to use, and you can see some tags there. This is an anonymized version of our support box. We use 3Mail for our library help support. So we have things tagged for me and my colleague, Amy, right there. Here are some message templates that we use a lot. This just saves a lot of repeat typing. You can draft something, really nice and then reuse it as needed. And you can always tweak it if you need to for the individual circumstance. More on the template. And the covers are major components. We have a couple of minutes. I did want to tell you about what we're working on next. We are currently in development on a fully featured ticketing system. So ticketing systems differ a little bit from email in that they're a way to more fine-grainedly life cycle requests through a variety of statuses, through moving around across different departments, different staff members, statuses, managerial overviews, notifications of ticket changes, the guest's ability to interact with the ticket, all those kinds of things. And this was driven by wanting to support kind of larger, more complex organizations than we felt could really comfortably use 3Mail. Like I said, 3Mail is wonderful for small teams. We use it ourselves, but when you're in a really big, complex library with a lot of branches, you might need something more like a ticketing system. So it will support forms for ticket submission. You can use those around your website. They will also integrate with our chat system for entry forms for exit surveys. Has a lot of notifications to let people know what's going on with the tickets, and it supports, permissions in kind of the same way that our chat system does in terms of, I am assigned to the ticketing system for this topic, this library, but I don't have to be bothered with all these other tickets for some other group, that kind of stuff. And I think that is about it for me. Again, Library Help, it's a real-time public service platform. And this is my contact information right here. And we have a wonderful free trial program. It's 3 months. There's no features limited and there are no strings attached. So you can fill that out on our website at libraryhelp.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Great system. It's always exciting to see kind of the features that you guys are working on and things that have changed since the last time I had a look at it. So thank you so much for sharing. If anyone has any questions, please do feel free to drop those into the chat or the Q&A. None have come in while you were talking, Pam. So I think we can probably just encourage folks to reach out to your contact information listed here. And if we hear anything, we'll be in touch with you too. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jeff. And thank you everyone for your time. Yeah, thank you, Pam. Thanks for joining us. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again, just as a little bit of a reset to bring us back to up to our next presenter here. So joining us next today is Lindsay, who comes to us from EBSCO. Lindsay, I am going to pass the baton to you. I'll stop sharing my screen so that you can start sharing your own.
Okay, thank you. All right, hello everyone. My name is Lindsay. I am an account executive here at EBSCO. I manage all high schools and public libraries. I am here today to tell you about one of our new databases here at EBSCO called Financial Fit. At the end of this presentation, I will bring you into the database just so you can see the interface a little bit more. All right, let's get started. So Financial Fit provides your patrons unbiased lessons on personal finance to help guide some of life's biggest financial decisions. To provide a brief overview on Financial Fit will help increase your financial literacy in your library community. We also have an interactive learning platform. This database is designed by the experts in the industry, and Financial Fit offers short and easy to understand lessons, videos, and interactive tools that help empower all members of your community. Financial Fit is quick, accessible, and empowering. Our content is personalized to meet each person's interests and assumes no prior financial knowledge. We have bite-sized lessons for quick consumption and which includes interactive tools, games, and videos. We also offer a mobile-first user experience as well. Some of the key resources to note, we have more than 160 microlessons, each of which can be completed under 5 minutes. We have interactive lessons and videos, learning games, worksheets, checklists, and a glossary containing hundreds of financial terms as well. Here are some of the sample topics you can see in Financial Fit. We have building credit, buying a home, renting, getting a car, managing debit, starting work life, understanding taxes, and we are always adding new topics regularly, so any topic suggestions are always welcome. Like I mentioned before, we will be going into the database, so here is just a quick preview of what the database will look like. We have easy to identify content and categories, bright and modern design. We also have you can quickly navigate to each micro lesson within a category, and we can easily track progression through each micro lesson as well. Here is a sample of a micro lesson that you'll see in the database. This one is just on mortgages, and I will go a little bit into more depth once we go into the database. Like I mentioned before, we have an easy to browse glossary of 700 plus financial terms. All of our definitions are in easy to understand language. There's no fancy jargon, and there is no prior knowledge, no need for any prior knowledge of financial information. Each patron will have to create their own username and password, and this just allows them to be able to track their own personal progression through the database. With that, you're able to have your own personal portfolio of all the micro lessons that you've completed or the ones that are still in progress. You are also able to keep track of any notes that you take while in the micro lessons, and I will show you that when we go into the database. And anything that you have downloaded will also pop up here. Just for an example, with budgets, we do offer a monthly tracker that you can access through here as well. We do offer built-in help for librarians and administrators, so there is no need for librarians to have any personal finance knowledge when using the database or helping anyone with the database as well. Before I move into the database, are there any questions or anything I can help answer?
I haven't seen anything come in yet, Lindsay.
All right, perfect. All right, so this is the interface. When you first log in, you'll just have to create your own username and password if you are a first-time user. All right, so for a first-time user, you'll be brought to our home page, which includes 5 of our basic categories, which include the basics, borrowing money, the big expenses, making money, and couples and families. If we go up to the top, we have the Financial Fit logo. And next to that, we have our search bar. If you have any topics that you already want to look for, you can just enter them in there. If we go down below, we have our home button. At any point during any micro lesson or during any checkpoint, you can click that and it will bring you right back to our page. Next to that, we have the glossary. Like I mentioned before, we have 700 plus financial terms that you are able to access right here. Next to that, we have our user profile, which includes My Dashboard. So if you are a returning user, you can click on that and it will show you what topics are in progress and which ones you have completed. Then we have our user settings as well. And if you have any questions while completing the database or working through it, we have the Contact Us button next to that, which will help bring you to our support team who can assist with anything. Then we have our Help button, which includes an FAQ, registration, system requirements, and accessibility as well. I am going to do a sample search of budget, so I will enter that in now. All right, so right underneath our search tab, we have our filters. We have Learn, which includes all of our micro lessons. We have Watch, which has any videos that might be linked to the topic. Plan, if the search topic includes any trackers or any other downloadable materials, they will pop up here. Next, we have Practice. So if there's at any point there's any quizzes or checkpoints, that's where they would pop up here. So if we just click on the Learn filter, it will pop up with all of the lessons. And then if we go into our first lesson right here, which is monthly budgeting, we will see all of the micro lessons that are included right here on our content tree. We also have one of our first videos, and like I mentioned before, all of our videos are under 5 minutes long, so they're easy to understand and grasp for the user. Down below, we have one of our terms, which is pay stub. So if you were to click on that, you would have the definition and it would bring you to the glossary if you wanted to learn more. Like I said before, all of our terms are in easy to understand language, so there is no previous knowledge required. I did mention earlier that we have a notepad feature, so at any point, if you wanted to take any notes, you are able to do so here. All right. I did want to show you one of our plan options. So if you did want to plan a monthly budget, you could click on here and you could download. You could download the tracker and you could either print it or save it or access it through our My Dashboard option, and you'd be able to input any information you'd like here. All right. Yeah, so that was actually our brief overview of Financial Fit. If there's any questions or any additional information that is needed, I am more than happy to help with any questions. I want to thank you all for your time today and allowing me the opportunity to show you Financial Fit. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. It looks like one of our attendees did put a hand up. That's Julia. So I'm gonna, Julia, I've clicked to allow you to talk. If you had a question you want to try and unmute yourself and ask, that's okay. Or you could certainly put it in chat if you prefer. Unless that was a mistake. Go ahead, Julia.
That was accidental, Jeff, sorry. But just a question. This is, I'm in an academic library, and do you have anything that's geared in particular to, college students in terms of just, it's just the general, they would find information about, how to make it through college and learn how to do finances?
Yes, we do offer resources for college students, and I am actually a recent college student, so I do wish I had something like this when I was going through college. But just to go back to the topic list, we have managing debit, monthly budgeting. I don't know what else, or like, choosing a roommate, living with a roommate. We have resources like that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks for that question, Julia. If anyone else has other questions for Julia or for Lindsay, please feel free to jump in. Otherwise, Lindsay, we can certainly relay questions onto you as they come to us as well.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. So I'm going to take us back to our start page. It looks to me like our third presenter, John, is here. John, we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but are you feeling like you're ready to jump in and start?
Yeah, you bet, Jeff. I've got everything I need. So
all right, let me just kind of get us to the proper place here. So our third presenter today is John, joining us from Pressbooks. So John, actually, let me share my screen just for a second. We'll do this one more time. So our third presenter today for Taco Tuesday is John McLeod, joining us from Pressbooks. John, I'm going to now close my screen so that you can take over.
awesome. I'll just start sharing here. And thank you very much, Jeff. Thanks for the opportunity. As I proposed for a little bit of a presentation here, I thought what I could do is show in the 15 minutes how to adapt an existing open educational resource that's been published to a Pressbooks network, and just show how easy it is to do that for instructors. So I'm on our Pressbooks site right here, and a couple things that I wanted to point out is that we have a number of plans and prices that are available, so that people that want to adapt or create their own content, they can come here to look and see what that entails. And so that's at pressbooks.com. I also wanted to point out the Pressbooks directory. So currently, the Pressbooks directory provides an index of over 5,200 books published across 152 different networks. Most of the material that's posted to Pressbooks, the Pressbooks directory and published there, is open educational resource. So they have a Creative Commons license and can be openly distributed, shared. They can be adapted, and I'll show you right now how easy that can be. So with a Pressbooks Create account, so I've gone to pressbooks.pub, I've signed in, I've created an account, and I've gone to, let me just go to my books. Just going to go back here. So when you log into your account, you'll have two options. One is to create a book from scratch, or two, to adapt a book. So if you have material, might be in a Word document, might be an EPUB that you've been using, and you want to create a book and start from scratch, this is where you would do that. But I'm going to show you how easy it can be to adapt a book. So let's say that you've been browsing the Pressbooks directory and you found a couple of resources that you want to use in your class, and you click on Adapt a Book. What it does here is it brings up a search feature so that you can search the Pressbooks directory. So I'm a sociology instructor. We'll pretend that. I'm not, but I do have an interest in sociology. And I happen to know that an awful lot of people have been using OpenStax material in their classes, and OpenStax is great. It's well researched. It's got legitimate authors. It's peer reviewed and been published for a long time. So when I search the Pressbooks directory, you can see here that there's a number of adaptations of OpenStax material already. Now, I happen to know that this actual Introduction to Sociology is a clone of an OpenStax book that was imported into Pressbooks on October 27th. So I'm going to, and that was in 2021, so I'm going to select this book. So what that'll do is it'll populate the source book URL for me, and it'll put in a new book URL. So if I want that to accept that, I can do that. Or if I want to change that in some way, put another URL title that means something more specific to me, I can change that here. And I can clone this book. So as long as the target book, sort of the source book URL, has been licensed with an open access license, so Creative Commons license is most prevalent. As long as it has an open license, we can create a copy of this book onto this network here. So it takes a few minutes, so I'm not going to go through that. I did that last night to pull up the Introduction to Sociology, and it does take a couple of minutes to make an exact copy of that book. But if I went into the organized book feature, you can see here that it's made a copy of all the chapters that are available in that book and all the subchapters and parts. And it's all there. So what I wanted to show is a way now that you can edit this book to make it more your own. So it could be a simple matter of whether you don't want to cover certain parts of a book. So if you don't want to cover demography and population and urbanization, you don't have time to get into those topics, you can shut those topics off. And or if there are certain things, so environment and society, environment's a hot topic now, and you want to move that up. And we're going to move that chapter into a different place. We can do that. Within the chapters themselves, if there's material that you have that you want to contribute, you can do that. You can do that within the chapter. If you want to make edits to the learning objectives, you can do that here simply in Pressbooks. It's as simple as typing in to make a new edit, and it will reflect that in your web book. You can see here that the images are copied over, so all the media that was in the previous book has been copied over into this book, and you can go through. I started to go through yesterday because there's a feature that's available within Pressbooks. If you're not familiar with OpenStax books, there are great books, but they're intended for a print delivery, typically. So when they're written and when they're presented, you get a web reflection of a printed book. If I go through this chapter, you can see what I've started doing is I've started making a live glossary. So we have a glossary feature that's available. And so if I click on a term and I go to the insert glossary term, I can select a term here from, I started importing these terms last night. And so what this will do now is it'll insert these tags around this term. Let me just save that and I'll show you the web book and what that effect is. So I'll just preview this. It'll pull up this chapter. So what is sociology? So now you can see that sociology and sociologists, these terms are now have been highlighted. And if I click on, if I click on sociology, you get the term here. So this is the systematic study of society and social interaction. So students will have live glossary terms available to them now that you're using that. So if I scroll down to the end of the book here, so there is a glossary that's available, but by making this glossary live on the web book, it's a more interactive feature for students. Another thing that you can do here is you can embed video. So if I went in and you can see here within this this chapter, they start talking about the sociological imagination. And let me just find that. Sorry, here we go. C. Wright Mills. So in this chapter here, I'm just going to insert a YouTube video that has a further explanation of the sociological imagination. So when I make that change here, I just need to insert the link. You can embed video within Pressbooks quite easily. And I'm just going to save that and you can see the effect. Now it takes that link and it'll show it within the web text. So students will have access to a live video within the web book itself. When you use Pressbooks to produce print copies, what will happen is that frame with the YouTube video will be printed out with a link to that video so that if you are using a printed book, you'll have that content that you can use yourself in another way. So the other thing that I wanted to show is how easy it is to import your own material. So if I click on import and I come into our import routine here. So I do have an EPUB. It's available. You might have an EPUB. You might have a Word document where you have your own notes. Or these are the other file formats that we'll import into a document, into your book, your work. I'm going to choose the file and I'm just going to open up that file. So here it is. This is theoretical perspectives in sociology. I'm going to begin that import. And this is the content that I wanted to pull over. So I'm just going to import this selection here. And import selection. And it does that, and it comes back to the table of contents. And you can see here that the theoretical perspectives in sociology has now been added to the first part of the book. So it's at the end of the first part, and you can move that around from here. So if this is something that I think is more appropriate to cover in chapter 2, I can do that. I can move that to chapter 2. Maybe I want this right after approaches to sociological research. So there you go. You can make edits to that now. You can show it in exports and you can make this book your own. You can easily, as I showed, not just import from other file formats, but if there was another Pressbooks book, if you wanted to do a custom book and you found something, let's look in the directory again. Would help if I could spell. And so here we go. This is the book I just imported. If there's some material, let's say from this book here, Introduction to Sociology, Understanding and Changing the Social World. So we'll go to that book and go down to the table of contents. And we see here the development of modern societies. If we think that this is something that we can use in our book, I'm just going to copy that URL. And instead of uploading a file, we're going to import from a URL and begin that import process. And now what will happen is it'll pull up a list of that table of contents, just like it did before with the file. And we can select which content we want to pull into our book. So I won't, here we go. Here's that table of contents. So you can find the chapter that you wanted to pull in, say it's explaining deviance and crime and criminals, and then scroll down and import the selected content into the book. I won't go through that process right now. The last thing I wanted to show you is how you can make changes to the look of the book, the look and feel. If you have a look at this, you can see here that there's some stylized, sorry, I'll just go to the next chapter where we can see in the learning objectives, there's some stylized writing here. That might not be appropriate for our target audience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to themes. So this controls the look and the feel of the book, and there's over 19 themes that are available to writers and authors. And I'm just going to scroll down and I'm going to find our Malala theme. This is the theme that's been probably our most, not only our most accessible theme, but it's one that is typically used for textbooks. And I'll activate that theme. If there are any theme options that you want to do, you can change those here. So whether those are displays of the parts and chapters, if you want to enable two-level display of contents, if you have different chapter licenses that are available, so you might have on an imported material, maybe you've used a different Creative Commons license for your own material. You might just have CC BY for your own material, whereas the material you copied over has maybe a little bit more restrictive Creative Commons license. So you can set different chapters with different licenses. There are different web options. This is the webbook width. You can have standard, narrow, or wide. Maybe you want to have a little bit wider width on the webbook, and you can make those changes here. So the effect of that is when you go back into that chapter, that learning objectives now are in a little bit different box with a little bit different font. The chapter itself has a little bit different font and maybe a little bit more accessible for students now with the Malala theme. So those are the outlines of how simple and easy it can be to adapt a book. And if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them.
Thanks so much, John. I don't see any questions yet, although I will encourage anybody in the live session to feel free to drop any into chat or raise your hand and we'll call on you. John, thanks so much for sharing this with us today. WiLS and Pressbooks have actually been partners for a long time, but I think this might be the first time we've had you on Taco Tuesday, maybe. So I'm really glad that we were able to have you with us today.
Yeah, it's the first time I've been on Taco Tuesday, Jeff, and I really appreciate it. We hear from an awful lot of individual authors. Just, you know, they're looking for an easy platform that they can use to create content. And actually, I should show just just briefly. So when you create a web book with Pressbooks, you have these different export file formats that are available. So just by creating the web book, you can export whether it's a PDF for print or for digital distribution, EPUB, a couple of different file formats. If you want to share a common cartridge with web links through your LMS, you can do that. And it's as simple as clicking export your book, and the file format that you get and the work you get has been optimized for each of those file formats, so that if you have a print on demand available on your campus, if you select the PDF for print, you can take that file, students can take that to the print on demand and get a printed copy of the book at a much lower cost.
I was muted. I said that's really great. So very impressive, cool stuff. Please, anyone who's watching live or in person, if you've got questions, please do reach out to us here at WiLS or reach out to John, and we can get you the answers. Thanks again for joining us, John.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but I do see our fourth and final presenter is here in the session. I'm going to take us back one more time to my starting screen here, just to get us. Where is all my Zoom stuff? There we go. I'm going to share my screen one more time just to get us set up for our last presenter. All right, so here we are for our fourth presenter today for Taco Tuesday. Joining us is Greg, coming to us from Sage. Greg, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and hopefully that will easily allow you to share yours. I keep losing my Zoom interface. I think it's because I put it on monitor. Here we go. All right, over to you, Greg.
Well, we'll see, first of all, how well we're able to share this out here. It shouldn't be too much of a problem, but bear with me. Let me know once you can see this, if that's all right.
I do see your browser right now. And we're seeing the slideshow, although it seems like we're seeing the presenter view, but
yeah. Let me try this once more. I never know with Zoom which one is. I have two screens, and so therein lies the difficulty, because on Teams, which is what we generally use, it's screen 2, but apparently here it's screen 1. Let's try this. And it looks like that's going to be the correct scenario now, right?
looks good.
Beautiful. Well, I appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks for letting Sage be a part of this. It's my first time, and it's cool. I'm happy to be here. And just wanted to provide some context on my side. So my name is Greg Goss, and I'm the regional sales manager here at Sage, covering the Midwest, the greater Midwest and the greater Southeast. And those definitions can, I know, vary publisher to publisher, but lucky for us, Wisconsin is a part of that. So I get to work with you all. And I'm doing this in the interim. So Gretel Webster is one of the primary account managers, regional sales partners is what we call them here at Sage, that covers Wisconsin. And so she would normally be here, but she's actually on maternity leave right now. So I'm thrilled to be able to take her spot and go through a little bit of the content from Sage and answer any questions that happen here. And of course, I'll be available, and anyone at Sage will be available for any questions for those that may be lucky enough to watch the recording here. So I'm going to just kind of go through some slides here. I also have an example of one of the resources available from Sage that I can share with you quickly, depending on how time works and questions and everything, as just an example of what a user journey might be through some of our resources. But the first thing I want to point out that people may or may not recognize or notice here is that Sage recently, just about 6 weeks ago at ACRL, unveiled our new brand. So the logo itself up here in the upper left is a little bit different. It's now only capitalized at the beginning. It's just kind of representative of Sage entering into the next phase of what we're trying to do, which is really support beyond just that journals content, which started what Sage does, into effectively supporting people across all skill levels at all types of institutions with learning resources that are going to aid them in every different capacity that they might have. And it looks like it just reverted. There we go. So the overall scope of the resources available from Sage, and with our nomenclature internally, are now called Sage Learning Resources. So those are going to include all the ones you can see here on the screen. They are vast in the depth of what they do. So each one of these goes really in depth into the topics that are covered within it. But the breadth of each one is actually really, really wide as well. So there's lots of cross-disciplinary content within there. Multidisciplinary nature is embedded within each one of these resources. So as we look away from this screen, this is just a snapshot of the overarching titles that are contained within the Sage Learning Resources. What you'll notice absent are Sage journals. So that's going to be the whole separate avenue of Sage that we publish in. And that's going to continue to stay strong and continue to be a big part of the business. But for the purposes of this conversation, just wanted to talk about these other resources we can see on the screen here. So anyone familiar with Sage may recognize a few changes in the titles here. Like the fifth one is now called Sage Data. This used to be called Data Planet. So Sage Data is now powered by the Data Planet content and by the interface itself. But I wanted to share this with you all just to have a look at some of the areas that we can discuss today and can be discussing in the future. So I won't go into each of these today. I know we're in a fairly limited time frame, but I wanted to take a minute just to leave this up here and really talk about the ones that I think are going to be most valuable for me to convey to you all today. Now, by no means is this exhaustive, of course, but I was hoping today to look at, in no particular order, the books and reference content, research methods, our Sage business content, looking at Sage skills and Sage videos. So these five are the half of these 10 here. I selected 5 to kind of go through into in a moderate amount of detail today. And then at the very end, talking about business models from Sage and how these are acquired. So for everything you see here on the screen, these can be, including the Sage journals, can be subscribed to or purchased outright with one-time funds. And then for anything that's purchased, then as time passes and more content is added, those updates would be optionally available for any institution to acquire. But just to go ahead and dig straight into the content themselves, or the content itself rather, Sage Research Methods is one of our flagship products. It is something that is just a decade or so ago, just over a decade ago, was created. And it was only just called Sage Research Methods. There was one aspect to it, and it was just a single option. As of today, there are 17 different collections within this resource. So we've got our core collection, which houses the books and reference, the books content, and the foundation of what Sage Research Methods is. But then outside of that, we have a number of different models of case studies available, a number of different resources that have a lot of data sets involved. We have video modules, data research or data visualization components, and all of these things, plus a few more, but all of these things really overlap with each other in a complementary way. So you're not going to find duplicate information, a case study that exists within Sage Research Methods cases and then also exists elsewhere on the product. So there's no overlap in that sense, but the concepts discussed are going to really nicely intertwine and allow people to take the journey from whatever stage they're entering their research all the way through the end. So whether that's understanding the concepts of research and how to do it and why to do it, or ethically evaluating and obtaining information, all the way up through writing your research paper and disseminating the results. So of the 17 collections, there are 2 that were launched just this year. There's a qualitative and mixed methodology video and what's called SRM for business purposes. But at the end of the day, this is intended to be the single source, the one-stop shop for all things research, to understand the concepts being used, no matter the discipline, to provide skills and concepts for people to take advantage of, no matter their skill level, and to apply to people who are very novice researchers or very experienced researchers. So it doesn't matter if it's the largest, most research-intensive ARL in the country, all the way down to high schools that have access to this content to really help understand the methodologies behind research. I can talk at length about each of these, so I'm going to put a pause on that one and move ahead to our business content. So as we look and as Sage looks at itself and the publishing program that we have on plan, looking backwards retroactively, we've been a business publisher for quite some time. We've got some of the top journals in business. We've got some amazing textbooks and authors that have contributed not only to Sage's actual output, but to the concept of leadership overall, for example. So Sage is historically and always has been recognized as a social science publisher. We are that. We're the preeminent social science publisher in the world. In addition to that, we have an incredibly strong business program that we're really trying to foster and make sure it grows outside of the business of the journals collections itself and the textbooks. So within Sage Business, we've got a whole collection of case studies, almost 6,000 at this point. And those case studies come and they cover, it's a unique access model. So it's acquired through the library. It's not a single purchase done by the students, one-off kind of rentals. It's a library model which allows for the library to provide access to all students anywhere, no matter where. And it's a really intriguing area because it covers areas often overlooked by other business case publishers, like women in leadership or immigrant entrepreneurs, or areas that have very much been kind of overlooked. We have been able to support and bring to the forefront of the conversation. Also within the business world, we have our newer Sage Business Foundations, which is where students can stay engaged with the content through, it's an interactive kind of interface. So there's videos, there's knowledge things that pop up, there are understanding checks, there are interactive scenarios that really help people prepare for the workforce and for the real world. And what they're doing is really matching the theories they're learning in classes, all the way matching that over to the real world experience and the exposure of how that's actually going to apply in the real world. Also within the Sage Business realm is a resource called Business Skills, which exists under our Sage Skills umbrella, but it's part of that business portfolio that we have to offer. The Sage Skills umbrella is going to opt to really provide the tools needed for students to come in of any level, whether they're coming in from previous work experience or straight from high school or from the military or any of the above, but at different levels themselves. Each of these collections is completely interactive, and it really is designed to support the student from day one all the way through graduation and beyond. So currently the two modules available under Sage Skills are Business Skills and Student Success. So you can envision a user scenario that has a student coming in, understanding the concepts of how to do research, managing my time, understanding and dealing with personal stress associated with coming into the university or college. And then developing those skills further and further, doing critical thinking, doing understanding biases, all the way up through transitioning over into the business skills world, where you're looking at concrete entrepreneurship or leadership or data analytics or organizational communication, and how to really increase their own value to an employer, and in order to help the library can help get the students placed into jobs and become very employable. So it's a wonderful series of resources. And we're going to continue to grow this skills-based content because that's what we've heard from the library. And the library, I mean, overall, it's the market. We've heard that numerous times from librarians, from whether it be advisory boards, whether it be conferences, whatever it is. We recognize that there's a gap in where skills are. And so we're trying to do our best to support that. And before going on to any other product or any other I can't see if there's any questions or not. So I don't know if there maybe I want to make sure and address that.
Greg, I haven't seen any questions come in yet,
Awesome.
but I do encourage those watching to go ahead and throw something in the chat if you've got questions, and I'll make sure to relay it on to Greg.
Great, thanks. So what we're trying to do is just make sure and not create content just to create content, but really meet the needs of the market. So that's why the skills content is being created. Originally, that's why we created these Sage video streaming collections too. There are currently 11 different collections. We're going to be adding a 12th in the near future, and then be updating those each year just to make sure they're staying fresh, staying relevant, and staying at the top of the forefront of people's minds when they're trying to do their research. Each of these 11, soon to be 12 collections is itself intended to be a comprehensive look at that subject, but they are inherently and by nature cross-disciplinary because the concepts discussed in, say, psychology may be very relevant in counseling, or in the concepts in leadership might apply to education or business. One of the main areas we focus on with Sage Video is to make sure and have a huge diversity of voice. So to make sure all peoples are being represented from all areas and all different sort of measurements, whether that's socioeconomic or whatever it may be, we're trying to have a very large representation across here and make sure people are reflected in these videos. We hold ourselves also, not just to the video content, but with our books, with our research methods, whatever it is, to the highest accessibility standards. So we strive to be as compliant as we possibly can with the most up-to-date WCAG accessibility standards. And we've won awards and gotten really good reviews on how we continue to try and strive to that ideal. Moving ahead to the Sage Books and Reference Collection. This is a set of almost 6,000 titles across the social sciences. We have the ability to look at individual collections or the entirety of the entire books and reference concept. And this is one that has a slightly different business model because you can subscribe to some, you can purchase some, or you can do an evidence-based acquisition model, which really allows for an in-depth analysis, access to all the content, and then purchasing that stuff that you use most frequently in order to continue that cycle moving forward. You can really build a kind of a customized collection of titles specifically for your library. So I've run through a lot of resources really quickly, and there's plenty more that could be discussed. But what I want to kind of close on, because I know I want to be aware of the time, is what's Sage Explorer. So this is a subscription only model. So it's not a purchase, but it's subscription access to almost everything you just saw, plus plenty more. Actually, everything you just saw, plus many more resources. So it's designed to be via a single portal, unlimited access to the majority and breadth of Sage content, allowing for students to engage and researchers to engage in the concepts that are most important to them, in the physical spaces, the geography which is most suitable for them, and in a way that's most suited to their learning style. So whether that's videos, whether that's case studies, whether that's reading books, whatever it happens to be, Sage Explorer provides conceptual understanding that's going to be able to be ascertained and pulled apart by individual students in whatever way suits their needs the best. So I see we are right at the end of time, so I think I'm just gonna audible a little bit. I don't want to get into the platform because that oftentimes can take a little bit longer, but I do appreciate you all letting me join in and let me participate in this. It's my first Taco Tuesday. I love the name, I love the concept, and I want to be personally and also have Sage be involved in these conversations going forward.
That's great, Greg. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm always excited to see what's new from our vendor partners, including Sage. We'd love to have you back. Maybe we will have you back another time, and you can cover the things that you kind of audibled out for today.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds marvelous, actually.
Fantastic. So I'll say to everyone here live and everybody watching after the recording, if you've got questions about anything you saw here from Greg, or really from any of our presenters today, please do feel free to reach out to us here at WiLS, and we will put you in touch with the right person if we don't have the answer here locally. Thank you again to Greg and all of our presenters for joining us today. Thank you to those of you watching. And I have one last little screen I'm supposed to put up. Seems like after doing so many of these, I should be a little bit better at it. So we will have one more session this month on May 16th. So I hope you can all join us again on May 16th. And we will look forward to seeing you then. Thanks again to everyone, and have a great afternoon.